Good Friday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Ken Durdahl. Developing right now, the man police say shot and killed political influencer Charlie Kirk is in custody. Investigators saying 22-year-old Tyler Robinson fired the shot that killed Kirk on Wednesday at Utah Valley University. They say Robinson's family turned him in. Right now, officials think Robinson acted alone in this shooting, but they are following some 11,000 leads that have been submitted to the FBI. Bofta Imam has more details on this big development.
Less than 24 hours after making a plea to the public to help identify the man who killed conservative influencer Charlie Kirk, police announced a major break in the case.
We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them.
Police say the shooter fired a single shot in broad daylight Wednesday from this rooftop at Utah Valley University. Kirk was a close ally of President Trump, who first broke the announcement about the arrest.
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him.
Investigators say they received 11,000 leads and tips and sent evidence like the high-powered bolt-action rifle to a federal lab. Authorities say Robinson was arrested after the new video and images were released.
Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been.
Meanwhile, as they prepare a case to pursue the death penalty, Kirk's fans and family continue to mourn his death.
I spoke to Erica, his wife, and we had a long talk, and she's devastated. She is absolutely devastated, as you can imagine.
Late Thursday afternoon, Charlie Kirk's casket arrived in his home state of Arizona. Vice President J.D. Vance traveled with Kirk's widow and honored his longtime friend with a final flight on Air Force Two. In Washington, Bofta Imam, NBC News.
The assassination of Charlie Kirk has a number of lawmakers once again calling for toning down political rhetoric. And this morning, the White House and Congress say they're increasing security. In the past year and a half, there have been attempts on President Trump's life, arson at the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, the murder, of course, of the Hortmans here in Minnesota, and now the killing of Charlie Kirk. Many have drawn comparisons to the 1960s and the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Bobby Kennedy, just months apart in 1968. But as University of St. Thomas Professor Emeritus Kevin Sauter tells us, the key difference now is social media.
The thing about political rhetoric today is that we are no longer engaged in a dialectic. We're engaged in a fight to the finish to win. Before, we used to have conversations about trying to find an appropriate solution.
New today, President Trump says he's planning to send federal law enforcement and the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee. He says it's to lower crime in the city after someone on the board of shipping giant FedEx brought up the crime rate in the city. Trump has said several times in recent weeks that he would mobilize federal law enforcement to cities like Chicago and Baltimore, something those cities are pushing back on. When exactly this rollout will happen is not clear. A shooting this morning in South St. Paul has left one person dead and another fighting for their life. Police say it happened near 3rd Street South and 2nd Avenue South. Here's a look at that scene. Police arrived and found the two victims shot inside a home. While one was already dead, they rushed the other to the hospital. The neighborhood was on lockdown while police searched for a suspect, and they did make an arrest just before 6 a.m. As you head home from work, union members and supporters will be rallying at the U of M Twin Cities campus. Organizers calling it an urgent rally to defend workers. 1,400 university Teamsters have been on strike this week over their contracts and wages. There have been some tensions during that strike. In the last 24 hours, a university spokesperson confirmed 12 people were cited and released after multiple warnings for interfering with public property. Now, the U also alleges Teamsters told temporary workers they'd call ICE on them for crossing the picket line. Now, the union denies that, saying it defies logic because many on strike are immigrant workers, and says they're not trying to disrupt, but they do want to be heard.
We're not here to disrupt anything or damage anything or be disrespectful. We're just here because we want to be heard. And then, we were told to, if they have a delivery for the hospital, let them in. So right away, they come out and talk to me, and then I let them in right away. So.
The U says they're committed to reaching a fair and equitable agreement. An attorney for the Teamsters filed an unfair labor practice for intimidation relating to those citations, among other concerns. As the strike continues, Farm Aid organizers are threatening to pull the benefit concert from Huntington Bank Stadium unless the U reaches a resolution. Raya Katene has the latest from organizers and what the U is saying.
For some on the University of Minnesota Twin Cities campus, business carries on as usual.
Sure.
For Grady Johnson,
Yeah, absolutely.
this is serious business, although it's anything but usual.
I'd rather be working than being out here, but we'll be out here until we get what we need.
As the University of Minnesota Gardner and Teamsters Local Union 320 member, Johnson is one of 1,400 university workers currently on strike.
We're prepared to strike as long as it takes.
How long it will take for the union and university to reach an agreement over wages and contracts is hard to know. But as the U prepares to host music festival Farm Aid at Huntington Bank Stadium in just over a week from now, the pressure is amping up.
It's hard to imagine like Willie Nelson crossing a picket line.
Willie Nelson, Neil Young, and Dave Matthews are some of the names expected in Minneapolis as part of Farm Aid's 40th year celebration supporting family farms. But as the strike continues, Farm Aid says it may have to move venues or cancel the event altogether. In a statement, the organization says, quote, "The farm and labor movements are inseparable, and our artists, production team, and partners have made clear that they will not cross a picket line."
It's really encouraging.
Meanwhile, the university says it has engaged in conversation with Farm Aid for months, especially this week, and that the decision about whether the event moves forward is theirs. The university adds that it remains at the negotiating table.
We're not backing down. Again, we're prepared to wait this out. Time is on our side.
I just needed help to figure out how to process through this because I was not going to be able to do it on my own.
That is Dr. Rachel Weigert, and she and two other ER docs at Children's Minnesota spoke to CARE earlier this week about their response to the Annunciation shooting and gave credit to the power of therapy. While it makes sense that experts in pediatric trauma care have trauma professionals to talk to right now, you don't need to be directly impacted to need someone to talk to. I spoke to two experts about how to get that conversation started. At a time when violence and trauma have altered lives directly and indirectly, there should be no shame in sharing.
The research on collective trauma says talk about it. Talk about it.
Yep.
Our society's so quick, to be done grieving. You have 2 days of bereavement leave after someone has died.
Yep.
Back to work. It perpetuates this idea that grief is something that we can do right after the event and it's over.
Yep.
And it's not over.
Therapists Sarah Lindsay and Adam Steinbach admit knowing who to talk to isn't easy,
We're humans too.
especially at a time when political divisions are driving many of us further apart.
There's so much strain on relationships. Right, I have clients who are processing how political differences are creating, these rifts in their family relationships. Violence is collectively traumatizing.
That's where this therapy space usually comes in. There's just one big problem.
I can't keep up with the demand. Community members are reaching out to me saying, where do I go? What do I do?
Since March, their answer has been Therapy on Tap, a gathering at local breweries roughly once a month where anyone can connect with 10 to 15 licensed therapists.
To see okay, can I sit with you? Can we have a conversation? Do you understand me? Because not every therapist is going to connect with every client.
It seems a little bit like speed dating for therapists.
Yes, we've had people say that a lot, yeah.
Is that an accurate representation or not quite?
Yes, it is, but less pressure.
It's less structured. You don't have to talk to every single person. There's not a time slot. It's a little bit more of an open house.
Alcohol and therapy?
Tricky, right?
Great question. None of the therapists are drinking at the event. No therapy is provided at the event. The therapist can just tell you a little bit about themselves. Lots of non-alcoholic options too.
Therapists only participate if they have immediate openings, while Adam and Sarah play the role of hosts.
I get to know a little bit about them and someone pops into my mind that they'd be a great fit with.
So you are a therapy matchmaker now?
Yeah, that's my new job. I'd love to do it full time if I could find a way. Give me a nice break from doing trauma work for a little while. Therapists are overwhelmed right now too. So we need each other too.
There is certainly no shame in that.
My hope is that we have a society someday that needs less therapists and that we get more of our mental health needs in our natural relationships, and by having strong community bonds that actually have space for emotion.
This idea that like we can be connected and be sad and like be holding these things, and we're not a burden talking about them with our friends and our family and our community, that we're all in this together.
Right now, the DNR's Fall Color Finder map is officially live. Now, you're looking at it right now. It shows what percentage of leaves are at their peak color. Obviously, there aren't a lot of fall colors just yet, but that will change. Experts say expect leaves to reach peak color in northern Minnesota near the end of this month. In the Twin Cities, peak colors are expected in early to mid-October. Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up right after the break.